Welcome back, everybody, to the Johnny Drinks podcast. I'm your co-host, Johnny. I'm here with my father.
This is John.
Today's topic of a discussion is actually very fitting. We're going to be talking about friendships and the evolution of friendships. But before we get into that, we wanted to give a quick shout out and appreciation to you guys out there and people that have supported this podcast, not even just monetarily, and people that have done things like the game room who has pretty much set up this studio. They gave us the bar outside.
In our home, my basement.
In our home.
Yep.
Those are long-lasting relationships. But the people out there like you guys that are devoted followers and fans and sharing this stuff with other devoted followers and fans means a lot to us. So although we can't personally shake your hand and say thank you, this is our way of doing that.
Yeah, I agree. And we can't say enough about the sphere of friendship and influences that we surround ourselves with, and that everyone, to the point of this conversation, should take a listen, take a page from the book, which is very much something that cultivates over time, right? Relationships and friendships cultivate over a long period of time. So we can dive right into it. We can kind of get into some of the finer details, but
well, I think what I wanted to do is, I guess, express where I'm at in life and share, I guess, where I think friendships are going, and hopefully learn from you, and hopefully then share with the audience what we also feel.
Yeah,
so
where are you?
Currently 27 years old, living on my own for the past year. Finally, it's been a great year. But the reason I mention that is because my friendships have evolved, and I would say they've changed the most over the past year than they ever have, right? So from my perspective, when you go through high school, you meet a great group of friends. Thankfully, I had a lot of really good guy friends. We were super tight, super close. You didn't really second guess your friendships at that point. You were kind of just living and hanging with the dudes that you had fun with. Then you go to college and you start to realize different personality traits and things you like and dislike about people. Maybe some of your high school friends turn you off now, but you don't give up that hold that you have on them. It's like, all right, it's inevitable. They're brothers of mine, and that's pretty much that. Then you cross over to the next, I guess, chapter of life, and now you start to pick up little things here and there that do separate you from individuals. And I think what we've talked about before is it really is important to surround yourself with the people that make you feel like a 5 versus the people that maybe make you feel like 1s or 2s, even if you consider them friends at one point. So at 57 years old, how has the evolution of friendship been? Do you hang out with people that you knew from high school? Are they all new people? What does that look like?
All right, so you just brought up something that is pretty important. How people make you feel, right? You can, in your mind, on a scale 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. If people make you feel good as a 5, well, then you want to surround yourself with more of those people. If they make you feel like a 1, then that's your decision. You want to be around them and they don't make you feel good, or they knock on you to break your chops. They find every opportunity to, put you down to make themselves be or feel better. That's on you. Yeah. So the first step, I think, in really understanding a friendship is the evaluation and how it makes you feel. And it's okay that if you're in a general group of 5 people and there's only one person that makes you feel good, well, spend time talking to that person and be cordial to the other people. But in moments where that might change and your 5 isn't there, and the other people, the other 4 are going out, and there's a 2 and there's a 1, and maybe just don't go out and don't feel like you're missing something, because you're not missing anything.
Have you attempted to sort of save face with these people because you feel bad about letting them down?
I'll say this: don't give up, right? Don't give up on people, on the genuine good part that's in everybody, because there's a 1 and there's a 2 that's in your group now. That's going to be a 5.
Do you have an example?
I have plenty of examples, and it won't be by name, but back to your question, high school. So let's think about this. The evolution of a friendship, it starts in maybe kindergarten. You meet somebody as young as 5 or 6 years old. They live on your street. You grow up with them. You play and you interact. And then, things change and evolve, and you go one way, they go another. You could be in middle school and have had a good relationship with somebody. And in middle school, you're not saying, "Oh, does that person make me feel like a 5 and I want to be?" No, right. You're just a young person. You're going through, you're having fun, you're playing. But things change because everyone evolves. your growth as a person is going to change first. Your body chemistry changes, right? Adolescence kicks in. Your hormones kick in. You know what that means. We've all been through that. And your growth spurts. You were the short little guy or person in second grade, third grade, and all of a sudden it's seventh, eighth grade, and you're one of the biggest people.
And maybe you're doing things that are different activities, like playing sports.
You're playing sports. All of a sudden, people are looking at you differently, right? So all of these things intertwine in, and it gets, for me, I don't want to go too deep into that part of it, but understand that's a passage. That's something you got to get. You just go through, you grow through, right? So some of the really relationships that you may have had when you were younger could still be in play today. Some of them have changed because people move away, have different interests. They start hanging around with different people. You start hanging around with different people. All right. As you progress through and we jump, let's say, to a place of high school where a lot of people really get lost. A lot of people get really lost and lonely in high school because they may not be popular, because they may not have any interest in the same things that they once did. They may have played Little League baseball when they were in third and fourth grade. And then come 10, 11, again, when hormones change, there's a huge fall off because they're just not interested anymore. Yeah. Or athletically, their skeleton development, their muscle development changes, and you can't keep up with it. All right. But as we, again, figure, let's relate to your high school friends and how you originally asked the question, do I still have friends, right? The answer is yes. And in my experience, if you looked at the high school experience for me, because I played sports, that in itself gives you the optics that, wow, you have all these friends. All these guys on your team are your friends. Well, they're not all your friends. Some of them are really mean. Some of them made me feel and will make others feel less and inferior to them. It's the whole bully thing. It's the whole, who's the top dog. And so you've got to grind through that. You've got to insulate yourself and find the one or two people, and all it takes is one, that you have alignment with that can help you get through that. So those who are in that situation today that might be listening to this or have children that are listening to this that are in that situation, remind them, right? They've got to grind through it, find that one person. And if that one person's not there, well, hopefully you have a family that's there.
Yeah. Friendships in high school are so tough because it really is like, when you take an outside perspective, it seems as though one instance can change everything. You were wrong. You did wrong by that one person who then ruined your reputation, and now you're whatever it may be. And now that trickled down into it. And keep in mind, when you are 16, 17 years old, your brain is very malleable and you're constantly changing. So you could have changed, again, in theory, for the worst. And now you're going down this path you shouldn't have been down. Right. So it's a hard place to be. And I think that's why high school relationships are very important. But if you're in high school and you are 16, 17 years old, hold on to the fact that just hang out with people that you genuinely enjoy hanging out with and that bring out the best in you. And don't worry so much about being in the cool clique. And if you don't feel comfortable with them, you really try to take a step back and acknowledge that, and don't just try to do things to make yourself look cool. And also realize that one mistake is not going to change the world. I know high school feels like this is the end and you're going to live in this state forever, but it's not the case. You're going to move on. You're going to have other chances to find new and better people in your life. So if you're going through that tough time, just weather the storm. Vice versa, like you said, if you're a parent, weather that storm and know that there is good on the other side.
Right. And so it's very interesting at my age versus now yours. You're gonna go through obviously some of the things that we're gonna talk about today that I've witnessed firsthand. I've witnessed firsthand the best athlete in every sport in our high school being the biggest jerk off. Okay? Best athlete, most popular, but the biggest jerk off. And today, literally, when I tell you they're dead, they're dead. They're not around.
Physically dead?
Literally passed away dead.
Like dead.
That's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. And it's unfortunate. But there's a pattern, and you will see this, unfortunately, because there's a lot of good in our world. There's a lot more positives out there, and don't let those negatives weigh you down to think otherwise. It's a great opportunity, great world we live in. There's a lot of good people. just keep looking to find the sphere and the group that you want to be with, the people you want to be with.
That's actually a really good point. I want to ask you a question that I got asked yesterday from one of my core sphere influential people. So the question he asked me was, top of your head right now in this moment, who are the top 5 people you hang out with the most?
Right. Okay. You're asking me that question now, right?
Is it,
So no, I wasn't sure
Anyone
if
else
you
in
were
the
going to
room?
answer it. I wasn't
I'm
sure.
asking
if
you
were
the
gonna-
question. Yes. Hey,
So
Dad.
my top 5 that I hang around with
Yes.
now, by name,
Name.
I'd rather not name them.
Name them.
No, here's why.
You have to.
No, here's why I'm going to say I'd rather not name them.
It doesn't ruin
Because
the game.
it changes. No, it's not.
That's the point. I want
It
you to,
changes.
but I know. I
Right.
want you to say
So
right now.
There is not, because it's hard. So right now,
It's not that hard. Think
This
about
week
it.
could be different than 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
and a
in
month
this moment
ago.
of your time, in the last
So-
couple weeks here, who has been, give us the last couple months, who have you been hanging out with the most?
Uncle Steve.
Okay, he's number 1. Give us somebody else.
But see, the past couple of weeks you're asking a great question, but
So just
in
answer
being
the
relevant to where it is.
I'm gonna give you another one.
I've
Ready?
always-
Me. You hang out with me the most.
Yeah, hang out with you.
2. Give us another one.
Last week it was my roommates from college, Chris and Steven.
Come on, in your sphere of life,
That
who you
was
hang out
not
with most?
that. Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
So you got me, you got Uncle
It was
Steve.
Jeff Lutner last week, 2 weeks.
You're ruining this. You're ruining the question.
Because I guess the point that I'm trying to make, back to your point, is if I name
Don't try to make a point of my
5
point. I'm trying to
people-
ask you a question to follow up another question. Name 5 people that you hang out with the most. Ready, set, go. Me. Mom is 1. Is mom 1?
Yes.
Okay,
My
thank you.
My immediate family, Diana, Joe, Victoria. That's my world. But you're talking, that's family. That's not friends.
But it's the people that you're surrounding yourself with. There's a reason I'm asking this question, so I'm like kind of waiting.
I don't know what you're going for.
You don't know
And
because
this
you
is the
shouldn't know
great
yet.
thing about podcasts. It's unscripted.
Yes, so
Very
please just answer
authentic.
the question.
I'm answering the question. I already told you.
Okay.
I
You're not
said
answering
Uncle
the question.
Steve.
All right, let's hypothetically say you had 5 people and you listed it. Thank you very much for that. What you're now supposed to do is you start to analyze a couple different questions about those people. And in the case of like if you're growing and you want an influential circle, what are those personalities like? How much money are those people making? What do those people do during times of trouble? Like start really picking apart those individuals. And the reason I asked in like specific moments of life is because you may realize that for whatever reason, you don't feel like yourself this past year and you're going through stuff and you're not handling it well. We'll take a step back and who have you been hanging out with? Or vice versa. Everything's firing on all cylinders right now. Who are the people that are surrounding you and supporting you during those times? So I think it's best to really try to take a step back and analyze that. So then you can start picking and choosing who you want to hang out with the most.
Well, see, that's a deeper dive than I would ever put to
It's okay.
my thought of relationships.
Well, that's why you're on a podcast.
But that's why maybe I don't internalize and stay up at night thinking about as much as maybe you or other people do.
Maybe you should.
If you're seriously, you have done that.
You should really start thinking about who you're hanging out with. Yeah.
I look at it this way. This is a keep it simple, stupid KISS theory, right? I'll go back to one premise of if you make me feel good, I want to hang around with you. If you don't, I'm going to avoid situations where I need to be in your space. That's it. The influence of their success or their inability to succeed, whether it's money or personally, if they're on the right road, if they're drinking too much or eating too much or smoking too much. Gee, I could take 5 of my friends without naming them and throw all that stuff into probably each and every one of them in different examples. Like who drinks too much, who smokes too much, who gambles too much, who does things that I don't find to be the most becoming of a person, whether it's as a husband or a father or a brother, right? There's things that people do. I scratch my head. I'm like, wow, why would you do that? But they're still my friends because there's lines that I'm not going to cross. And I'll go specific here. Very good friend of mine could be, and this is a hypothetical, I don't have a specific person when I say this because I can apply this to several people, is in a pattern, a habit of just doing the same thing over and over again, whether it be drinking, smoking, or gambling, or all 3. I have as an obligation at some point to have a conversation because I see it and they don't.
Right.
But it's not my business either to call them out. I just know next time I'm around them, it's going to come up because they're going to ask me, hey, you want to go to the track? Or, hey, you want to go meet for a drink? Or, hey, do you want to go to this place or that place and go hang out? And that's when I'll have an opportunity as a true friend to say, well, no, thanks. But what are you doing? What's your thought? Why are you? I'm seeing a pattern here with you. So that's part of, again, a friendship too.
Right.
You need to have courage and confidence and be comfortable to exchange and talk with somebody. But you also got to be careful because you're not their father, you're their friend. Right? Differently than you and I talking. It's not even sometimes talking. It's me telling you how it is. Sorry, but that's the brutal truth of being a parent. And then as a friend, you're like, well, hey, do you really need that fifth drink? Did you really need to go to the track again?
Well, right. And it's a really good point in reverse because that sphere of influence that individual has is you. And in this instance, you are being that person that they need. Mm-hmm. You're being the person that is, for whatever reason, this moment of time, not better, but you're giving them a check and saying, hey, I don't think you should be doing the things you're doing. And you've probably had that check from people, whether you know it or not. And everybody's influenced by the people they surround themselves with.
Yeah, well, your mom checks me all the time.
And that's the person who hangs a lot.
That's what I need. I need it from her.
Right.
You know, and then I have other friends that check me too, like Uncle Steve. You know,
correct.
He'll be have no problem, and it's mutual. Right. So
I also think it's a little bit different, and this is where like the differentiator between our ages. Like you're 57, you're not change. Your percentage of change is going to be a little bit different than mine. I'm 27. I hope to change a lot more than you do. Not to say you can't change and evolve. You can always, but you're not going to be skewed and influenced as much as I would be by the people you surround yourself with. Right, you're kind of like fourth quarter good.
Well, but my evolution of change is constant. I will. The difference is because your optics. See, you guys at your age, optics is way out here. It is. It's let's go socialize here. Let's go there. Let's live our best life. Let's go to the pool deck. Let's go down the shore. Let's go. Okay, you're doing all that, and mine is here now. So I only know that. Well, I don't want to go to the pool, to the roof deck, to the bar. So it comes in here, and now it's just like I want to go on vacations. I want to spend family time with other families, right? Laverty's, love doing that. Manella's, love doing that. All these special relationships that we've formed in multiples of people. An example, like we just said, 2 families, that happens because mom drives that significantly. And the guys have to know they got to get along too. So when you have that synergy in the children and in the adults, well, that makes it a little bit more laser focused.
Yeah. Do you think you've had any, and I guess you don't have to say the name because we don't want to go down this rabbit hole again, but is there an individual that has influenced you to become just like an extreme best version of yourself, whether it's in work or relationships? Do you identify one person as being that guy for you?
Several people. There's always, and again, it depends on what maybe I need at the time.
Right.
So when I think about my professional career, when I was deep in it, it was Greg. Right. So there was a guy that had it like locked down, like, wow, that guy's super polished, professional, knows his craft. Mm. And if I'm going to try to have any sort of connection professionally, I better know my craft. Yeah. We can hang out casually and talk about sports and cars and, all the other things, buying houses and dream stuff. That's easy. But if I'm going to hone my craft and get into a space where now the conversation needs to be relevant as a professional, I better sharpen my tools. And that's a guy as an example. Yeah. And by the way, the Gwiz family is also. I didn't want to say. No, that is. I'm just thinking of. Obviously, that's another family that we enjoy doing a lot with together.
Okay. So that individual, again, I have a couple more questions about him, but before we do that, just going to take a quick commercial break.
Wow.
A few moments later.
And we're back with the John and Jake podcast talking about friendships and the evolution of friendships. So we were just talking about the person that you identified has had the most impact or influence on your life, or one of the most influential people in your life.
Right, professionally. Yeah,
right.
definitely.
So professionally, you mentioned what he did really well, which is honed in on his craft. If there was a question about the mortgage industry, he knew the answer to it.
Yep.
What about personal life? Is there anybody in your life that just in social settings, in times that are a little bit harder, they nail?
A lot of people, but Uncle Steve comes to mind. Phil Iosa comes to mind. These are social.
I guess
these are social kings.
Right. Less important than the names, more important about what do you take away from people?
Well,
like that?
takeaway is their ability to work a room, to be comfortable, to not give a shit about what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
Now, that statement is not an easy one to live with because they do care. We all care. Anyone who says, I don't give a shit, I don't care, it doesn't bother me, it does, it should, and it can. The difference is, if people ask that of me, I'm so comfortable that it doesn't bother me like it once might have. I don't give a shit like I once did. It still does bother me, does affect me, does kind of go in the head and go like, what? But then I'm like, it's all right, no big deal. Maybe they were having a bad day. And so to make themselves feel better, they wanted to chip away and put me down. Or to be funny, they thought they'd say something sarcastic to kind of lighten up the room. And then I'm thinking, or, we've been in those situations.
Right. You were
Like,
the butt end of the
like
joke.
if I said, hey, Joe, you look good heavy. Well, that's a compliment. But Joe's like, wait, did he just say I'm heavy? I don't even know. So Joe could get insulted.
Oh, no shit.
And
It
as
was an insult.
Joe's sitting here.
Joe's about
behind the
110
mic,
pounds.
he's got as he's sitting here, he's going to leave and go, he's going to go, what the hell? I'm 110 pounds. How can I be heavy?
It's not 110. Joe's lean. He's like 6'3", lean, chiseled.
Yeah, but you understand what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. And there's another saying, right? Well, there's truth in jest, a backhanded compliment.
Well,
There's all these things that just you'll learn to turn off and be like, all right, it was a try. I said some stupid things in my life and will continue. And there's a filter that we all should have, but it doesn't always work, especially when you drink truth serum and you're out with your friends.
I think that, but that's
you say
a good,
things that you shouldn't say, and okay, that's collateral damage.
that's a good point to bring up, because it's like the balance of, I don't give a shit, I'm going to say what I want, what's on my mind. But like, do you really want to be that guy that's just an asshole? Like, everybody has a truth that they can point out in the room, right? Whatever it may be. You feel so righteous you have to be that guy, because I don't understand what that really does for some people. It doesn't do anything. So yeah, you could live your truth, but at the same time, some things aren't necessary.
Right.
So
Some things are left best unsaid.
unsaid, correct. I had a question about what you mentioned before about Uncle Steve.
Social work in a room.
Yeah, the social. Yeah, work in the room.
They're comfortable. You asked me how they impacted and influenced me. So, well, while you're thinking about
Pondering
that,
about that one.
that's okay. Well, while you're thinking about that, so there's again those people professionally and multiples personally, socially, that have helped guide me, and some of them wouldn't even know they were doing it because they were epic failures at it. So it's easy to see someone who does it well and be like, wow, I want to be like that guy.
Well,
And then there's
Right,
another guy
right.
that's like, oh my God, he's a sloppy mess. Well, look at the way he's dressing. Look at the way he's acting. Look at the way that, whether it's male or female, that the friends around them are like laughing.
that's a great. I mean, I think it's just less about what they're wearing. If they appear, it's
Yeah.
like more how they feel about themselves. Like Phil will walk in a room and he's just one of those guys. If you don't know him, he'll light up the room, and you may not know him, but now you want to get to know him. For whatever reason, you gravitate towards this type of attitude and energy.
Right.
And I don't think those things can be taught. It's kind of just like progressive evolution of being very confident in who you are as a person and genuinely wanting other people to like you. And I think that's like a weird thing to say, but it's reality. You walk in a room, you want everybody to like you. Why is that a bad thing to crave other people's positive energy.
And attention.
Right. And you may not want all the attention, the cameras and lights on you, but you walk in a room, you want everybody to be like excited that you're there. And I read or heard something online. Self-talk is obviously huge, right? So if you're nervous about a situation, whether it's social setting, a networking event, or even a room like this, I've heard people literally say, walk in and walk back out. If you walk in a room and you don't feel comfortable for whatever reason, restart. Close the door, talk to yourself, say, hey, look, I'm going to have this kind of night. I'm going to be this kind of person, and then go in and do that. And I've had to do it sometimes. And people, I think, look at individuals like us often, and we walk in a room and it's that sort of energy that you're attracting, but it's not always that it's out of nowhere. You do have to work for some of that stuff.
Correct. Listen, the body won't go where the mind hasn't been. You, me, everyone needs to program and mentally script through. If we're saying it's a room you're going to walk in, who are you going to see? What do you expect to talk about? We talked about this in other episodes. Forward, what are we bringing up, right? Forward, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. If you know that when you walk into that room, you could at least make a conversation with one or two people, then start there.
Yeah.
Find one, right? Hopefully you're not going into any environment totally by yourself and not knowing who you're going to see, but that's what you should do. You should put yourself through the mental preparation game of that social environment. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just being fair to yourself.
Yeah, it makes it easier when you actually care about what they say. Like if you're looking for the answer and you're curious about what their response is going to be, that's one thing. If you're not, I think you should tap in and be like, let me at least enjoy this moment while I'm in it. But now I remember the question I had about Phil and Uncle Steve, some of your best friends. We talk about friendship. I think it's super important how you handle social settings together, because there are individuals that, like we said, bring out the best in you. And I personally feel like I have what I would consider almost like a chameleon energy. If I'm walking in with the wrong people, you're going to get the worst version of me. Like I'm not going to be that social. I'm not going to be that excited. I'm not going to say the right things. Whereas the opposite, if you catch me with the right people, I'm a completely different person. So how do you act? Do you act differently with people like, again,
you're listen, 57 years old. My behavior will pull from the energy of others. So if I'm with my group from, the country club,
right,
it's different than my group outside the country club.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why that is, other than the dynamic of that one group versus another is just very different. Two groups of successful, seasoned, accomplished people, but personalities that are night and day.
You almost got to fit that mold.
Yeah, and you got to know, again, you learn your place. Where one day, 10 years ago, I might have been very much engaged into, the first group, right? The country club group. Very engaged, like doing everything with them, going out, traveling, having a blast. And then things change. Not necessarily, let me be clear, not that I personally changed, but maybe I did change a little bit. Yeah. Because I made decisions that, I don't want to be in that situation anymore. Or I'm really, I did it once, I went twice, I went 3 times. It's going to be the same thing. I'm less motivated to see the same rerun show again. Love all the guys the same way, but there's another group now, right? There's other people that come into your life. Let's take what we're doing today. 5 years ago, I'm heavy mortgage group, heavy mortgage relationship. I have a lot of friends from other companies that I would hang around with, that we would go and do things, conventions, right? Business conventions, meetings, you name it. Life was different 5 years ago. Today, I don't see any of them anymore. It's not because I'm not friends with them anymore. The phone call I just got earlier was from a friend of mine who works for another mortgage company. Right. I haven't talked to in a while. And so we're still friends, but we don't see each other anymore. Sure. So now here I am, fast forward, now I'm hanging around in this digital space with some young guys here and some people. These guys are more in my world now. Think about it, every week.
Yeah, we got to find you more older content creators.
There aren't any. I might be one of the oldest. But so you get my point. Now I'm hanging around with a different group.
Yeah.
So some of my friends today that are in the advertising space, some of my friends that, right, are intertwining into this digital space.
Have you noticed some of your old friends changing the way they treat you ever since this transition of being in?
No, I mean, I don't feel any different. I think that they actually are energized and supportive of this because they feel like in some respects he made it out. Like it's a weird thing to say, but when you're doing something for 30 years, you're a police officer for 30 years. Thank you for your service. You're a fireman. You want to get out.
Yeah.
You want to do something else. And when you find that passage through to something else versus just sitting back and collecting a pension or trying to wait for your retirement or Social Security, when you find a true segue, that's why I think a lot of my friends are like super excited. They're like, is there anything I can do? Can you bring me on?
Yeah.
I'm like, sure, at some point, maybe there's room for everybody. I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting, it's a dynamic that is like very different and like quote unquote friends. You don't really know why people are coming at you nowadays. If it's a brand new person and they're 50 some odd years old and they're reaching out to you, do they want to be your friend or they want to learn how to get out like you did and vice versa? I'm 27. It's the same thing. Are they having conversation with me to learn how to do what we do and not have a 9-to-5 job? Or do they genuinely want to be my friend?
You're gonna have to deal with that. I see through it. I don't want to say I'm smarter, but I see through it because I'm more experienced. You're gonna contend with that a lot differently than me. Think about how many relationships, when I say relationship, it is a relationship. It's a short-term relationship, but how many relationships we had 3 years ago when we first started that we don't even talk to today, that I could text. Yeah, well, I could text ABC person from XYZ company and they don't return our text.
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing, right? We didn't do anything other than what we were signed up for. Yet that person probably had an agenda, and we probably somehow figured out that they weren't going to be part of it, or I don't know.
Well, I think what I've realized too, and this is a good point about the relationships and friendships is, and I know you say this a lot, that we are very relationship based people, right? The brands we work with, we are very selective and we like to get to know them as people. It helps us honestly promote their products because now we actually like it.
Right.
And I think we've gone above and beyond, and I'm okay to do that, to say, hey, look, we'll overreach, we'll overstretch, we'll make sure we do what we have to do for them.
Right.
And then when it's time to return the favor, I think we've realized that this is a very transactional game. A lot of people see us as just views on social media. And if we're not getting the views that they're looking for a specific video, they're very quick to drop us. And that, for me, it just opens your eyes a little bit more to who you're going to reach out and extend, I guess, what we consider friendship to, right? There's a reality to what we do. And I think we thought it was going to be a little more.
Right, but part of that can be disappointing for you.
Not really.
No?
No, it's not. Honestly, it's a learning lesson. Whenever I learn something, I'm not disappointed. I actually see it as an opportunity to now what happens the next time. Again, we had a great relationship with so-and-so. That person dubbed us when things got hard. Mm-hmm. Well, the next time we get excited about a relationship, are we actually friends? Are they our true friends off camera? And if the answer is yes, that's one thing. If it's not, then we treat them like...
So here, this is a great point. Very relevant for us today. You can't be disappointed if you have no expectations.
Right.
Okay, fine. That's very important to understand. That's not a knock. That's not an insult to anything. But I personally go into every opportunity with the understanding that we're going to have a relationship and I'm going to bring my best and I'm going to be sincere, and then they will make the decision where if it, because that's the only way.
We're not going to change who we are.
Yeah. No way, shape, or form. Anybody we align with for purpose of advertising and branding, they get all of us. Yeah. Right. If I don't care for the product, we've talked about this just even this morning, just dismiss it. Like, no, thank you. I can't get behind it. I don't like it, or it's just not a fit for us.
It's not fair to the audience.
No, well, it's not fair to the audience, but it's not fair to the audience, but it's not fair to us. Me, I don't want to waste my time, waste their money, waste their energy if we can't be truly convicted and relate to something. It's got to be relatable, right? Sure. I can't talk about hair products.
Why not?
I just can't. I mean, beard, yes. Waxing, maybe.
Waxing for sure. Hair
shaving and lotions and stuff, absolutely
Maybe
bring
a
them on.
toupee company. If you got any
No way.
Turkish hair replacement
gosh.
companies out there.
Oh my gosh.
Well, actually, you know what's funny about this whole situation too, and I guess this is a reality that some people don't have if they're not in our shoes. Is like we deal with a lot of one-sided friendships. There are genuinely people out there that we have no clue what their names are, and they feel a connection towards us. So it's like our responsibility to maintain who we are as people because we don't want to lose. It's and I've had it happen where people will argue with themselves in the comment section. Like they'll say one thing and then they'll get mad at us for doing another thing. Like we owe them something. It's a very interesting dynamic, but that is the reality. And we do want to treat people like they are our friends. Everybody that watches and supports our content, we do think you are in our corner because you are, just like anybody else is. And there's plenty of people that are out there we don't even know. They give us more support than the people that we do know. So I think those are things that as you grow, you like to analyze and look for a little bit more and not just hang your hat on, well, I knew so-and-so since I was 3 years old. I have to be his friend. You don't have to be friends with anybody. You don't got to hang out with anybody.
So it's no more evident for me what you just said. Like when I've done personally meet and greets, you haven't been there. I did a few, right? Did a couple more recently that you just couldn't, because the schedule couldn't be there with me. And I have friends show up. They're just coming there to see me. They're, in some cases, my friend Mike Farina drove an hour to go to Seaside to see me. My friend Jeff, he only drove maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes. He came. I haven't seen him since college. Like that to me is so rewarding and reinforcing that, okay, I must be a pretty good guy, right? Or I must be something relevant to them. Well, but you know what I mean? Like that reinforces that there is something. So friendships, back to the evolution of friendships. Friendships aren't always just cut from that cookie cutter form that have to be a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy that I just mentioned that you met, I haven't seen him since college. It's over 30 years ago. Yet we picked up right where we left off, sort of, right? Caught up on the kids and stuff like that. And that's great. And there's a genuine, authenticity to that dialogue. And so he's a friend, and the evolution of it, who knows? It may be something where I interact. I may be playing golf with him in a couple of weeks. I may go next time I go down to the shore. I may now I know he's there. So it's the peaks and valleys of these relationships too. To my other point, the person you met in kindergarten, in middle school, in high school, they could go out of your life for a very long time, and then all of a sudden your worlds come back together, and you literally can be best friends.
Yeah.
Right? Or conversely, you may not know somebody at all growing up. You may go to work and work for 20 years, never meet anybody that you connect with. And then somewhere down the road, you go to a high school reunion, you reconnect, you find somebody. Or you get married, you have children. Your wife meets somebody that she likes. She has the husband. The husbands now meet, and now the husbands connect. Case in point, Joe Laverty. I didn't know him.
Man, you mentioned Joe twice now in this podcast.
I said Joe Laverty twice?
You mentioned the Lavertys and then him again.
Oh, well, he's a great example of a guy that I didn't know growing up.
Yeah, it's a great guy.
And now, well, but think about that. He's top 5.
Well, I think, and everybody that
Probably
is in
top 3.
Well, you've said to
If
him,
he's listening, top 2.
You've said to him top 2. I was going to say I've
If
heard
you're
it.
listening, Joe, you're 2.
1 and 1A. You've actually said.
I got 1 on 1. You know what the best part is? He won't listen to any of this.
Well, we're going to send him this.
Nah, he's not going to listen to it. No one. Maybe Alyssa. Alyssa will say,
I'm going to send it to him.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's like common threads of people that you've identified as like your core circle. And some of them, their traits are, like you said, bring the best out of you. They're loyal.
Yep.
They support you, better for worse, when it's going good, when it's going bad. And they also don't throw their problems on you. I think there's like little things to keep an eye out for. If people are in your life and all you do is talk about how bad their life is going to be, it's dragging, and that's going to now consume your life, and you don't want to be around those people. And I think that's sort of the problem sometimes with really early childhood friends, right? You've gone through everything together, and sometimes I think that does breed a little more jealousy and envy in your life, because if hypothetically you're not going through a good patch and your best friend is crushing it, you're like, well, why does he deserve it and I don't? We went through the same life path. And that is sometimes you neglect that when you meet somebody new because you have no clue what they went through. They might very well deserve what they have. So it makes those conversations a little bit easier. Do you notice that with your newer friends, like the sense of jealousy is just not even...
I have some very long time old friends that still to this day I would think are somewhat envious. I don't think jealous is the word. It's a little envious. But they're still happy. But they're still, as a friend, they are very happy. Right? They're
happy for you, or
yes,
happy?
They're happy for, in this case, us.
I just listened to this podcast about and I'm saying it for a reason, the differences between jealousy and envy. I think I sent it to you, but the difference between the analogy he gave was like jealousy is the feeling of, man, I wish I had what that person has. Whereas envy is the feeling of that person doesn't deserve what they have. So you may feel the envy of like, why does Rondi deserve to have a great relationship with his son and do now, like you said, made it out on the other side and not, blah, blah, blah. It's not necessarily, oh man, I'm going to go and do those things, because a lot of your friends are never going to go and pick up a phone and start making TikToks, but they can feel that sensation of, he doesn't deserve that.
Right.
I mean, none of us deserve that. We all have to go through the 30 years of working and then retirement, just like, we're supposed to.
Listen, a good friend should be able to check you down too, right? Should be able to check you down. And if you're getting a little too big in their mind.
Yeah, but where does that check down come from? Is it from jealousy?
Yeah.
Or is it from a genuine interest in your well-being?
It probably comes from jealousy. It probably comes from maybe a place that they feel entitled to do that. But that's okay. See, again, at 57, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because it'll back to the point. If I say, well, I don't give a crap. I don't give a shit. No, I really do. Maybe there is something there that I need to reevaluate for myself. Maybe there is something I've said in another conversation to him or her that was inappropriate, that now it's just coming out weeks later, month later. So you don't know. All I would say was you got to turn the table on yourself and look at yourself. Well, how good of a friend are you? What did you do? Yeah. What did you do when their parents passed away?
Yeah.
What did you do when they were down and out of luck and didn't have a job? What did you do? What was your part as a friend? So that self-evaluation is very important too. If you want to have a good friend, be a good friend. You want to have people around you, like-minded, synergy, exude, and give that out.
Right.
And you will get back what you give.
I think that's a great point to end on, because this is a conversation that we could go on for hours, but that's a really solid point, guys. If you have your feedback, please leave it below. Share this with a really good friend, and hopefully you guys resonate with this. But I think that's it for today.
Cheers. Subscribe,
share, all that fun stuff. And again, thank you for supporting and watching. Peace.